What's up, guys? Welcome back to the garage. Today I'm going to go through 5 things that I dislike about the car and 5 things that I like about the car since I've had it. And yesterday was the 6-month time period that I've had the car since I bought it back in December. So it's kind of a good time to break down how I'm liking it as a daily driver and some of the things that bug me about the car and some of the things that I'm really happy about, really pleased about with the car. Driving it pretty much on a daily basis. So first I'll go through some of the stuff that I didn't really care for. First thing, it's a direct injected motor. It's loud, it's kind of noisy, clickety-clackety at idle. There was a time for a couple weeks at the beginning that it sounded especially clackety to me, almost like a heat shield was loose or something, and it only really manifested itself around 2,000 RPMs while driving. And it usually happened when the car was warmed up, not when it was cold. So I called the dealer and I was like, hey, I'm hearing a noise. I think it might be a heat shield loose. Can you check it out? So I took it in, dropped it off. They looked at it, they poked around. They said nothing's wrong, everything is attached properly. And the technician said that it was the injectors making the noise. And he said that, these newer cars with the direct injection tend to make a bit of noise because the injectors are so high pressure. And he said it's perfectly normal. It goes away once you get in the higher rev ranges as you drive it normally, which it does. So that was kind of a little bit of a frustrating time for me. Not too bad though. I just didn't know what was wrong. I didn't know if something was wrong because it sounded to me like something was loose because I don't have experience with direct injection engines, at least on a daily basis. So the noise comes and goes. It still happens here and there, but I try to ignore it because, I guess that's just the way these newer engines are with the direct injection. So that was kind of the first thing that worried me about the car, if you will. Again, nothing to worry about, I don't think. I've had no issues with it reliably. It's been very reliable. Second one is, there's a radar sensor on the front of the car, and it's kind of low on the bumper. It's kind of this big, square thing. And, I got some comments earlier on when I was doing my first videos, oh, it's going to get broken off by a rock or something, gravel's going to hit it or whatever. And that thing, it's pretty well secured there. It's actually mounted on a piece of metal behind the bumper bar there. So it's not just kind of hanging out. So it doesn't really move around a lot. I haven't had issues with it cracking or anything. It's held up just fine. The only thing is when it's icy out in the winter, it does get kind of covered in ice, and it'll malfunction. Let's see if I can find a picture of it here. So this is the car in the wintertime when it was extremely icy. And as you can see, there's ice covering the front of the car. And actually it's more like slush, but this is the radar sensor. See how it's square? And it can get completely covered in ice and slush when you're in wintertime, and then it won't work properly. And it'll actually give you an error message. Here we go. All right, here we go. So when the radar sensor gets covered by ice or slush or mud or dirt or I think I had it happen once with just a lot of rain. When it was very rainy outside, it got covered with water and it wasn't working properly. So it'll give this error message when it gets obstructed, and then the radar cruise control won't work, and a couple other the safety features won't work. But in that case, you just get out and wipe it off, and it's fine. I've not had issues with it malfunctioning for extended periods of time. So that's the one thing, and then the other thing is, the backup camera also has the same problem when it's muddy out, when it's icy out or wet out. The backup camera gets obstructed, it gets dirty because the back of the car obviously gets dirty. And I'm sure every car that has a backup camera has this problem. I've just kind of noticed it's frustrating because like you drive around for a few days, it gets dirty, you want to back up somewhere and you have to like stop the car, get out and like run your thumb over the camera or wipe it with a microfiber towel so that you can see if you're backing up. So, I mean, that's just ownership thing. I mean, it's not a flaw of the car at all. And then the fourth thing would be it has 19-inch wheels. You know, the tires are, I mean, I think they're 45 series. Yeah, 45s. 40s, sorry. And so there's not a ton of rubber there. 19-inch wheels, it is kind of loud. You do hear the tires, as all of the car reviews have said about the new Accords. You know, you do hear tire noise. That's just the way Hondas are. My old Civic Si, you know, I heard tire noise in that car as well. This one is just more pronounced because it's very large wheels. So that's one thing, and especially over rough roads, you know, those rough roads that are like, you know, not sealed and they're kind of like tar and chip. Those roads really, you do hear the tire noise in the cabin, and so that's the price you pay for having big tires and wheels, which I knew going into it. So it's not like a huge deal. I'm not faulting the car for it. I think it looks great with the wheels and tires being 19-inch. I think anything smaller, like a 17-inch, just may not look good with the proportion of the car, how big it is, and how long it is. It's just the nature of the beast, I guess you'd say. And then the fifth thing that kind of frustrated me about the car over the past 6 months was I guess all these car manufacturers these days are putting fake exhaust tips on the back of the bumper to try to make it look sporty or pretty or shiny. And, you know, Honda did this with the new Accord. They put these, you know, kind of oblong, like sad face dog ears looking like, ooh, boo hoo, like silver rings for the exhaust. And they're integrated into the bumper. And so, like, the exhaust comes out of the mufflers on either side. It's dual exhaust. And so it comes out underneath behind the bumper, and the bumper's here with this like tip thing, and the exhaust just kind of stops. And then the tip is there, and so I guess there's like a space between the exhaust and the tip. I'll show you in a little video clip here I'll insert, but I don't like that. I wish they would have just, you know, either left the tips off of the bumper and just had a plain plastic bumper, or just, you know, had standard exhaust tips underneath the bumper actually attached to the exhaust. I think it's just kind of, I mean, it looks really nice, but as a car guy, as an enthusiast, it's frustrating that so many manufacturers are doing this. You know, everything from, I don't even know, all the brands do this. You know, I know specifically for Honda, they're doing it a lot. You know, Toyota does it, everybody does it. And I wish that they would go back to just having a real exhaust tip actually attached to the exhaust and just have it integrated nicely into the bumper in some way. Not this like fake applique that isn't even attached to the exhaust. You know, I don't know, I digress. But that's just a design thing, I guess, that they wanted to do. And I wish they had made it real. But that's just me. All right, so now I'm going to go through 5 things that I actually liked, really liked about the car in experiencing it over the past several months. Obviously, the first thing is the engine. You know, I bought the 2-liter car, not the 1.5, so I knew that I was going to get more power, more torque, as opposed to the smaller engine. You know, it's not a rocket ship by any means, but it's relatively quick for daily driving. It gets decent gas mileage. I think I'm getting, well, actually, I'll show you. I did kind of a comparison here between my old '07 Civic Si over the course of 4 years of ownership compared to my new Accord over 6 months. So the Civic over 4 years of ownership, I averaged 29.11 miles per gallon, and that's total average. So that includes highway, city driving, every type of driving. It's not, I didn't carve out any, types of driving from that number. That's all inclusive. So 29.11 over 4 years for the Civic Si average, and then my max was 40.70 miles per gallon. That was probably on a road trip that I did to South Carolina a few years back. So 40 miles to the gallon is pretty good. So 29 average, 40 max, and over the past 6 months with the Accord, I've gotten 28.87 average and 32.13 max. So it's good. It's pretty much exactly the same average. 1 mile per gallon, 2 mile per gallon off from the Civic Si. So, it's a bigger car. It's turbocharged. It's gonna work a little bit harder for its miles per gallon. And of course, in my commute, I do some city driving as well. And it's a turbo car. How can you not get into the boost sometimes, especially going on the highway? So, we'll see how it pans out over the next couple of months and through the year. As the motor wears in, it gets more miles on it. Statistics show that it'll get better gas mileage progressively. So hopefully that number will creep back up. But I think the 1.5 cars get about 5 or 6 miles per gallon better. But you sacrifice power for that. You sacrifice the torque. You sacrifice, the responsiveness. And so I really wanted the bigger motor. So I'm getting really not any worse gas mileage than I was with the Civic Si. And something that I'll add to that as a side note, an important side note, is with the Civic, I had to put premium fuel in it. So, I had to go through 92, 91, 93, whatever was available. And it's neat that Honda manufactured and specifically designed these motors to have 87. So I can put basically, 30 cents less per gallon in cost into this car as I did the Si. So that over the course of the next couple of years, if I, keep it that long, which I probably will, it'll manifest itself over those years. Same average, less cost per gallon, provided that the market, for fuel doesn't increase substantially. Cost of ownership as far as mileage, as far as fuel is concerned, is going to be slightly lower. So that's good too. Second thing I want to talk about is the transmission. The transmission is incredible in this car. I come from a 6-speed manual for my previous daily driver, and my knee was starting to hurt a little bit. I would have some, weak times where it just, after a couple of days of driving it to and from work, I felt like I needed a break. So I really wanted to get something that was easier to drive on a daily basis. This car does come in a 6-speed in the 2-liter Sport, but I really wanted something that was easy to drive daily, and I didn't want to have to deal with stick shift every day anymore. Obviously, in the future, I'd like to get something fun that would be stick shift manual, mess around with, have fun. But as far as the daily driver, which is what this car is for, and road tripper, I really wanted something that was automatic. And the 10-speed they put in this car, it's Honda manufactured, no other company made it. They designed it from scratch, very smooth. It shifts perfectly when you want it to, downshifts when you want it to. It has sport mode you can put it in to, sharpen up your steering response and your throttle response. It's actually significant, the throttle response. If you have a constant pressure on the gas pedal and you're in eco mode, for example, and you switch over to sport mode, if you don't move your foot at all, it just surges because the throttle response is so much different. The mapping is totally different between those two. Even between normal and sport mode, it's very much different. So and you do have the paddles behind the steering wheel, so you can put it in manual mode when you're in sport. And so, coming home on a nice Friday afternoon, it's nice to put it in manual mode and hit a back road and get into the boost a little bit. But it kind of has aspects of a manual in that regard, but it's just such a smooth transmission. And being a 10-speed, it really breaks up the power band for the engine, so that it keeps it within where it's most powerful, in the lower rev ranges, as opposed to having shorter, fewer gears, taller gears, and it working a little bit harder. It's nice to have it split up into smaller gears, closer ratios, so it helps the engine, it doesn't have it work too hard. So I think the transmission is it's excellent, this torque converter. And I think it's an industry first, having a torque converter automatic in a front drive. And I think as far as 6 months are concerned, I've had no issues with it. It's been perfect. So I really like the transmission. However, the one thing I'll leave on this point is the push button transmission took at least a month to get used to. For the longest time, I was going to the center to try to shift gears. I was going to the column to try to shift gears, and now when I get in my Jeep, I try to push a button to shift gears because I'm now used to this method. But I think it works pretty well. Other Hondas have push button transmissions. A lot of other cars have push button transmissions. I know Jeep has a dial that you spin to shift gears. At least they used to. So I think it's nice to have the push button. That way you know exactly, once you get the hang of it, you know that you're in drive, you know that you're in reverse. And with Honda, the way that they made them, reverse is like a little lever that you pull. So that's really nice. Third thing, really quick here, I just want to talk about the lights, the headlights and the tail lights, and the high beams and the turn signals. Everything is very well lit. The interior is well lit. I really like the headlights. My dad has a TL from, I think it's '08, and I think these lights, I don't know, I think these lights are as good as, or maybe better than that car's lights, but I do think that having the LED, low beam lights, it's amazing. You can see so far in any conditions, rain, snow, sleet, ice, and the fog lights are very bright as well. And I like that they're LED too, so that the color temperatures match between the low beams and the fog lights. Now, I don't have the Touring trim level, and the Touring trim level adds LED high beams, so I just have the halogens. But the halogen high beams in this are just as good as the halogens in my SI were. And I loved the high beams in my SI. I think they were the best that I've ever driven. And so I think these are on par with that. So the lights are really good. And I do like the taillight design. It almost looks like the Nike swoosh. It's the taillights kind of go up on the outsides. So I really like or maybe like a hockey stick. But I like the design of the lights in general. Third thing I wanted to go through real quick here is the interior. I think the interior is really well designed. I haven't had any issues with rattles or creaks or shakes or anything over bumps. The moonroof doesn't rattle. The door cards don't rattle. I don't hear any wires, inside the doors rattling. The seats don't move inadvertently or anything. Everything is in the interior. As far as the buttons are concerned, everything's laid out where you would expect it to be. And one of the reasons why I chose this Accord over like an older TL is the fact that there's not an overload of buttons in the cabin. It has the central screen. I call it the Etch-a-Sketch because it has those two dials. It has the Etch-a-Sketch screen, and then a handful of buttons for the climate control, a handful of buttons on the steering wheel, and then your transmission shifting buttons, and pretty much that's it. So I think the interior is very well designed. I think as far as materials are concerned, I mean, it does have some hard plastics, but in general, I think the interior is pretty well designed. It has this, I think it's vinyl and cloth seats. I don't believe this is leather. Vinyl and cloth seats, they're very comfortable. You know, I've had no issues with my back, which is one of the main reasons why I wanted this Accord, bigger car in general, over the Civic for daily driving, because my back was killing me. I took my Civic on a road trip last summer, and I got back and my back was hurting for a week straight. So I really like the seats in this. I haven't had any problems so far. I'm going on a road trip in July, going down to Virginia. It's about 6 hours, so maybe after that I'll have a more of a comprehensive update on what it's like to road trip and to sit in these seats for an extended period of time. But so far so good. I'm really happy with the seats in this car. And then the last thing I want to talk about as far as things that I like about the car is the color. I mean, the color is gorgeous. It's like a dark blue, and it's sparkly, and it's in direct sunlight, it's a bright blue. In evening or dusk, it's like a really deep dark blue, almost like, I don't know, almost like navy blue. And it's got sparkles in it when it's in direct sunlight. You can see these little sparklies in it. It's almost like a metallic paint, even though they don't call it metallic. And me being a big fan of blue, I mean, I think it's a beautiful color. Honda nailed it with this color. And that's just not just me, you know. Every time I go to a car show or go to the gas station or the grocery store, or like, you know, go to work, I've had many people, you know, in passing say, hey, that's a really pretty color, that's a really cool color car, you know, love the color, and nice Honda, nice color. And I mean, it speaks for itself. The color is gorgeous, way better than like a gray or a black. I mean, I had a black Civic Si, and it was metallic colored. It had little flecks of blue and like red and silver in it when it was really clean, and it was a beautiful color, Nighthawk Black Pearl on HBP. But the Still Night is way better in my opinion. And this is just personal opinion, you know. I love blue, and having a car that's this pretty color of a blue, this cool color of a blue, is really doing it for me. So I really like the color. Not that it's, you know, that important to anybody else but me, but I really do like the color. So that's kind of it. Just wanted to go through a few things that, you know, maybe I've found in my ownership during the car, ownership of the car during the last 6 months. Like I said, gas mileage has been pretty good. Haven't had any mechanical problems with it. Now, I did have one morning, I think it was in the winter, when I started it, I pushed the starter button, and it kind of chugged, chugga for about 15 seconds. And then I pressed it again and it started normally. And I've never had any problems since. So maybe that was just a function of it being very cold outside, not wanting to start. But apart from that, I mean, no reliability issues. I've done 2 oil changes so far. I'm right at about 7,945 miles, 7,945 miles. So I put about 7,700 and change on the car. 2 oil changes. Takes about 4.8 quarts of oil, 0-20. And I bought a set of 5 Honda branded oil filters from Amazon for like $30. So, you know, I can do the next 3 oil changes as well. Well, 2, because I did one for my dad too. But yeah, it's been dead reliable, completely reliable so far. And I mean, I wouldn't expect anything else from a, you know, 7,700 mile car. So I guess the next steps are probably going to do a tire rotation in the next couple months. If not at 10,000 miles, a little bit before. Tire rotation, probably get it aligned at some point. I need to have the Lux Care reapplied. I know there's a lot of debate out there about the Lux Care stuff. It's supposedly like supposedly a ceramic coating, and I've read things online that it's not a ceramic coating, or it's just wax, or they just spray stuff on. In my experience, this Lux Care seems to be a real ceramic coating, because when you spray water on the car, water just kind of shoots off, it beads off. I don't think I've gotten a video of it, but I should. When I get it reapplied, I'll try to remember to get a video of it. And I did, when I initially purchased the car, I put I think 2 coats of Meguiar's NXT 2.0 wax on the car, but I mean, I really didn't need to, because I think this ceramic coating stuff is just phenomenal. When I clean the car, when I wash the car normally, it just sparkles, it shines. I think that stuff does a really good job of keeping the really tough dirt off the car, or at least easy to get off. Because when I wash it, it comes very clean, very easily. One pass with the microfiber and it's clean. So I think it was worth the money, at least for now. I think it was. What else? Interior space is great. The back seat feels great. It's just a very long car. 191 inches is a lot of car. It's a wonder it fits in the garage. I mean, when it's in here, I have like literally 2, maybe 3.5 inches of space up front, and I have about 6 inches of space to get between the tail and my toolbox in the back. And then when the back doors open here, I have about, I want to say about the same, maybe 6 inches between the door and the car. So it barely fits in my garage. I can't imagine what people with maybe a little bit not as deep garage and a little bit narrower garage would do, because it barely fits in mine. To do any work on this car, if you do an oil change, you have to have the door open, because there's no way to get under the front of the car without the door open. It's like 3 inches of space between the nose and the door. So it's a very long car. It's taken a while to get used to parking it too, because it's so wide compared to what I'm used to. But the backup camera helps a lot with that. So yeah, I think it's been pretty good so far. 6 months, no major issues, and I'll keep driving it, keep trying to get the mileage down and see what kind of average I can get, because it's hard to stay out of boost. It really is. But when you have the long block from a Type R, you got to get into boost. I mean, you have to. So yeah, I think it's been pretty good so far. 6 months, and let's see how another 6 goes. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. If you've purchased a new Accord recently, let me know your thoughts. If not, let me know your thoughts anyway. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, leave a comment. And thanks for watching Carburetor Garage. Have a good one, and we will see you next time.